Hey, what's up, guys? It's Melky, and I'm going to be bringing you a casted game of StarCraft 2. Never really cast the game before. This is something I played a few days ago. I'm playing Zerg. My opponent is Terran. Now, for those of you who aren't too familiar with StarCraft, basically the way it works when you're playing Zerg is you pretty much want to power up your economy as quick as you can in the beginning, like get lots of drones, lots of workers, to get a strong economy going. That way in the mid game you can overwhelm them with units, whereas the other two races, they kind of want to do damage early on and stifle the Zerg economy and then just wreck them economically, basically. So basically what I'm going to be doing here is we're going to be playing through my perspective, watching this through my perspective, which is a pretty cool thing you can do with the replays. So we're just going to be watching what I was seeing as I was playing it. So closest thing really to a live cast, but there's no way I can live cast this game. It's just too hard. It's too fast paced. I can't talk and think at the same time. So anyway, so basically, yeah, I'm just trying to get as many drones out as I can right now. I'm sending overlords across the map to look at what he's doing. I've got this overlord here checking my natural expansion to make sure he's not trying to put a bunker down there or anything cheesy like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and take my expansion in a second here. There it is. You tend to have to expand a lot more as Zerg, quite a bit faster anyway. The other races can get away with being a base behind, but Zerg's always got to be a base up, or you're boned. So I'm just having a look at what he's doing, checking his gas, see how much he's mined, and based on that, it doesn't look like he's going to be sending in a Reaper, because I think he didn't have gas quick enough. And even if he did make a Reaper, by the time it got to my base at this point, I'd already have a Queen out. He wouldn't be able to do much. So it doesn't look like a Reaper opening to me. The gas just wasn't fast enough for it. So at best, a late Reaper. So I'm just going to go ahead and not bother with getting speed. Normally I would take a gas if I saw that it was a Reaper and get Zergling speed as fast as I can to try and chase that Reaper away in case he makes more than one. You're going to have Zerglings to deal with that, or you're just going to lose. So I'm still just powering up drones, making a spawning pool. Looks like my opponent, as you can tell by this production tab, he's making a factory. Could be going for widow mines, or he could just be using it for his tech tree. So what I'm doing now is I'm putting a Zergling in front of his base. That way, when he moves out with his army, I'll know it, because I'll see the Zergling die, and I'll know that's when I gotta start making units. So right now I'm just positioning this Overlord in a kind of a hiding spot. That way I can later check in to see if he's expanded yet. Because if a certain time on the clock rolls around, I'd say 5:36 minutes or so, probably like 5:30, 5:45, if he still hasn't expanded, and something could be going on, and I need to figure out what. Otherwise, you can just lose to cheese or lose to some timing push, and that's always frustrating. So you got to keep an eye on things. Scout, 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 scout is Zerg, always scouting. So I've got a few queens out now, starting my injects, making more queens. I like to go up to 4 queens. I take a 5-minute double gas against Terran. Seems to work. So those 2 queens there are just going to spread some creep once they have some energy. So here we are, it's 5:30. I'm going to poke in with my Overlord, and right now I see that he has still no expansion. So I need to get in there and figure out why not, because I don't know what he could be doing. I see he's building a Banshee on the production tab, but I mean I don't actually see that in game yet. So I'm just continuing to power up. I probably should make some kind of defense or unit pretty soon here. I'm not sure. Just powering up. Trying to get my saturation going. Okay, I see the damage on my Overlord. What's all this? So that for that brief second, I did manage to catch. He had a tech lab on his starport, which at this stage of the game needs Banshees, cloaked Banshees. So that's why I'm putting down all these spore crawlers everywhere. Now, this is pretty much an overreaction. Most people would put like 1 in their mineral line. I put more. I tend to overreact to that sort of thing. I'd rather do that than lose, you know what I mean? I don't know. It'd be considered a mistake at high level play, but I don't play at the very high level. I play at the gold level, roughly, so So we're still pretty low, so I'm not terribly good, as you'll see, but anyway, I tend to overreact to that, so anyway, worst comes to worst, his Banshee won't do a whole hell of a lot. Yeah, so I'm just continuing to spread creep here, which is really important, particularly against Terran, because Zerg has kind of a tactical advantage on creep. They not only can see everything on creep, because this game has Fog of War, but their units actually move faster on creep, so you have a pretty good advantage. So here comes his Banshee. He's going to try to do a little harass, but it's not going to work because I've got my Spore Crawlers, which not only shoot air, but they also detect invisible, so if he tries to cloak, it's not going to work. Now, he does get a couple of drone kills here, which is just piss-poor micromanagement on my part, but he loses the Banshee to a Queen, you know. Ultimately, that was not worth it. The investment of the Banshee and the cloak research, when he could have been doing other stuff with his money and his time for two drone kills, that was not worth it at all. So that's really great for me. So I'm just continuing to power up more and more drones, always more drones. I'm taking a third base right now, which, you know, may or may not should be doing that right now because he doesn't have a natural just yet that I'm aware of. But I'm floating a lot of larvae, starting to float a little bit of minerals, so I guess I was thinking, why not, right? So I'm continuing to try and keep my injects up. It's one of the Zerg macro mechanics. Your queens have to inject your hatcheries to get larvae, otherwise you can't build things. So you got to constantly remember to do that. Remember to spread creep. You know, all these things. Just part of the game. So I'm starting to make Zerglings, and I'm building the melee upgrades so that my Zerglings do a little bit more damage and get some armor. Just powering up, heading towards the mid game. Still don't know what my opponent's up to right now. He had that failed Banshee attack, so I'm not sure what he's planning. So as you can see here, I'm sending my Overlord back in to see what the hell's going on. I can see on the production tab he's making tanks, but okay. So I had a little signal here. My Zergling died, so I know he's moving out, and so as a result of a reaction to that, I make 26 Zerglings and 10 Banelings. Because I didn't really see what killed my guys, so I wasn't expecting tanks, so I figured it'd be a push of Marines, and Banelings are quite good against Marines. So he's got a Marine tank composition coming my way, but thankfully my creep spread can see his units here. So without that creep spread, I wouldn't have known where his units are. But thankfully, because of that, I can set up a bit of a flank, which is kind of what you have to do as Zerg, especially on creep against Terran. You always want to be setting up flanking maneuvers. Just a moving head-on will just get you killed every time, so you really got to set up flanks. So I'm sending my Zerglings in the back to take out those tanks, because they're the real threat. Just making some more stuff. I'm making roaches, because I figure he was I think my logic there was he's making tanks, so it's kind of a mech-ish. And you'll want... roaches are okay against mech, as long as, you know, aside from tanks, but ultimately you can use Mutalisks or use... Vipers to blind the tanks and they can't shoot. But anyway, I made a bunch of roaches out of a quick reaction, so looks like he's got a bit of a fortification there, so I'm not going to try and run up there and die, so I'm just going to head back home, continue to spread creep, try and get my next set of upgrades. Just making the Zergling or the Baneling speed upgrade, that way the Banelings go sort of fast on creep. Yeah, just continuing to spread creep here. Nothing too special. Looks like he's got his natural down now, and he's building a third here. So at this point, I'm going to start setting on my Overlords to see what the hell. Try and keep a little bit of vision on the map. You always got to know what's going on the map, or you just lose. Information is everything in this game. If you don't know what's coming, you can't stop it, and you just lose. So I'm just going to fortify this third base a little bit so we can't walk up and kill it. I'm going to go ahead and get a macro hatch for more larvae so I can crank out the production. Getting all these upgrades for my stuff. Faster Overlords, faster Roaches, and armor and melee for my my Zerglings. Now he's got a much bigger force coming in here. So I'm going to try the best I can to try and thwart it. He's still being quite aggressive. Terran usually is pretty aggressive. So he's got a huge marine force here. Thankfully, his splitting sucks, and he lost quite a few marines to not that many banelings. So he's going to try and, at this point, he's going to try and bait me into his tanks, which is a smart move. Normally, these days, a lot of Terrans do that with Widow Mines, which are this amazingly obnoxious unit that burrow underground, so they're invisible, but if you get near them, they just kill you with missiles. So he's trying a drop on the high ground, which is, again, not a bad move. I think I clean it up without too much loss. And while he's doing that, my roaches come in from behind and kill his tanks, which is a bit unfortunate for him, but you know, that's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes. So, yeah, looks like I cleaned his marines up, despite the Mativac support. So I've got my macro hatch up and running. I will need another queen for that. Otherwise, you get your queens wandering out all over the place when you try and inject, kind of like this right here, and that's what you don't want. I'm putting down a spire because I know I'm eventually going to need mutalisks, which are a flying unit, just to harass his base and get some mobility. They're really, really great units. Zerg doesn't have a lot of harass options, really, so the mutalisk is kind of pretty much our only option for harass, so I'm going to go ahead and make some of those. I've got a nice little army here going. Let's see what I can see if I can poke in and maybe see what he's up to. See if I can do a little poke damage. Now I notice up here he's got a third base. That could be a fourth if he has one here too on the third spot. So I'm just gonna check that with some Zerglings. And no, he doesn't have it. So he's taking his third over here, which is well, I don't know. I don't know if that's odd. I guess Terran likes to expand towards... Oh no, there he goes. He's got a fourth. So I'm going to block his landing with my Zerglings, which is just this, you know, cute little trick you can do, and then they have to kill your Zerglings before they can land that. Looks like I'm just cranking out more units. Banelings, Zerglings, anything I can. There's those Widow Mines I was talking about. They're a real pain in the ass to deal with. Looks like I'm trying to engage his marines here with my Zerglings and my roaches, but I think ultimately he's just gonna have too much. Yeah, he's gonna try and push me back here. Yeah, that's quite a bit of stuff, and those banelings are completely wasted on those marauders, which are those much heavier looking infantry units. So I'm continuing to inject my hatcheries and try and spread creep as much as I can while I pay attention to this. Now again, he's trying to bait me. Yeah, see, the missile goes off and shoots. It does quite a bit of area damage. They're very obnoxious. He's got quite a few of them. That's just pure death right there. I've got to be very, very careful how I engage this so I don't lose my whole army. Like, all of those Zerglings would die to one shot of those Widow Mines. They're insane. So I'm going to send in some sacrificial Zerglings to take out the mines. And it'll do friendly splash damage on his own units, which is good. So I see that tank siege up, and I can't screw around anymore. I've got to make a push here, despite the losses, and I push right through it. But I don't know if I've got what it takes to finish him off. Maybe. Yeah, it looks like I will. But at what cost? A lot of those, well, all the Zerglings died, and quite a few of those roaches got screwed up. Now I've got a huge Zergling army coming up here, but he's got all kinds of bio here, and that's just not enough Zergling. I need banelings for that, and so he's just gonna clean up all my units here probably. Yeah, so that was a failed attack by me. But I'm floating a ton of money here, so I should be making mutalisks if I haven't already. I think I made one. This would be a great time to make mutalisks. I think I make them soon, I'm not sure. But, okay, so I just made a crap ton of banelings. Try and kill that stupid army of his. A few more roaches, another macro hatch. So it's a pretty back and forth, pretty scrappy game so far, which is good. You don't want that build up to death ball and clash crap, because that's boring as hell. So it's fun to have a scrappy game like this. So right now I'm just going to check and see what's going on at his base. So it looks like he's got a very exposed base with a lot of mules, which are going to bring him a stupid amount of money. So I'm going to go ahead and wreck that on him. Kill everything here if I can. that's a not the greatest engagement because he had a lot of marauders, but I ultimately came out on top there. So I took out his mining base, which is pretty important. And I'm not sure if he replaced this one on the left here, but I guess we'll figure that out relatively soon. Just continuing to power up. This is my 4th base that I'm going to drone towards, get it up and running. You always want to be expanding and taking new bases and getting more money, because if you sit on 1 or 2 bases, you're going to run out of money and you're going to get just economically wrecked. Like, it's just complete checkmate if he's got more bases, more money than you. Strategy and tactics almost go out the window. Not completely, but it's just math, right? It's just a numbers game. If he has more, generally he will win. So always be expanding and taking more stuff. So again, I'm attacking his, what I'll call his 3rd base right now. Again, it looks like I'm able to take it out, which really sucks for him. But that's a shit ton of Zerglings. Really, 1 or 2, well, maybe 3 or 4 Widow Mines would murder that entire squad of Zerglings. And I don't normally run with that many Zerglings. Yeah, see, I send my sacrificial lings up there. That way this ball can come through. Now, if he had more up here, if those were burrowed sooner, that would have been really bad for me. But thankfully, he didn't. So I'm coming in with a massive, massive force here, trying to wreck his natural base, do as much damage as I possibly can. And all the while, looks like here come the Mutalisks finally. Oh, got some idle drones. We don't want that. Yeah, take a 5th. Why not? So he's got those medevacs, keeping him in the game, keeping his stuff alive, kinda. But once he sees those Mutalisks, those medevacs are done. So I come with my flock here, Mutalisks, and gonna see if I can take out some of those medevacs and really put the nail in the coffin. And yeah, they can't outrun the Mutalisks. Now he does have a few Marines, so I back off a bit, so I can just swing into his base and do whatever I want in his base, and he just leaves the game, because that's basically checkmate. So anyways, that's my first attempt at casting a game. I hope it wasn't too horrible. So yeah, that's StarCraft 2. I might do more in the future, but we'll have to see. So thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.